All right, guys, we got a Dodge Nitro today, doing front and rear brakes on it and calipers. Let's do this video just on the front. Calipers, rotors, pads. Got our handy goose grip light right here. I love it. Swiveling action. 19 millimeter on your lug nuts. Be careful with your jacks and jack stands, guys. Always be safe. And take your tire off with that 19 mil. Now we got a 13 millimeter on the caliper bolts. I have a 15 millimeter Olsa Tools slim wrench because this nut will spin on you half the time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Bust these two free. It's spinning, so we'll just put a wrench in there. You can also just use a screwdriver or whatever to keep this little guy still. Once you crack them free, they should come out easily. This one is just a rust belt special vehicle, so lots of rust. Now we're going to grab our screwdriver. We're not going to need these bolts because the new caliper has new ones. But we just got to pry this caliper off. I like to grab the edge of the pad and press the caliper in. It's going in nice and smooth, so we shouldn't have any problems with our brake hose. Right there's our caliper. We don't want the brake caliper to hang and put pressure on our brake hose, which it looks like this one needs a new brake hose soon anyways. It's cracked right there.
Yeah.
That's just the insulation, but it shows that it's old and stretched.
It's getting there.
Yeah. All right, now we've got our two big bolts in the back. I think those were 21 millimeters.
Yes, sir.
We got our 21 here.
I want to go with that Olsa Tools
Swiveler.
Swiveler. That's what I use.
We use the Ryobi 1 Plus HP with the upgraded battery, and it does pretty good for us around here. There's the bottom one. Let's see if we can fit. Heard something drop. Let me go. Alright, no swiveler needed. We can get in there with the impact on this.
Sounds smooth.
One of the most important things is make sure you hydrate. Now this mounting bracket should have fell down, but we have enough rust all over keeping it up there. It wasn't in there too bad. All right, if you're not replacing your caliper, buy premium pads with new hardware, and this hardware only goes on one way. So look at the way it comes off. There's two different types of hardware. So one will go like here and here and here and here. Just look at the way it is. It's got like a little lip, and then two of them are inverted from the other two. Also, make sure you take out your slider bolts right here from the boots and grease them with high temp silicone-based brake grease. We use Seal Glide by AGS. It holds up good throughout the years. And clean all the rust from your mating surfaces where the hardware goes into the caliper. Clean that up good with a wire brush, wire wheel, Dremel tool. If your pads are really tight, like this one's really tight, then you need to do more cleaning. Or you bought really cheap pads that are shaped weird. It's happened to me a few times. That are just longer than the OE. So in that case, I ground down a little bit of the year. But if you clean them and you bought good pads, you shouldn't have any problems. All right, and we grease those points, grease in between the hardware and the caliper bracket with that brake grease. Keep the rust from swelling up and locking your pads in the future. Also, a little dab of grease where the brake pad ear sits on the hardware. No grease on the friction surface of the pads or the rotor. No grease or oil there, guys. All right, so now that we got that off, go ahead and give it a few whacks with the hammer.
There's a lot of bimetal corrosion right here on this subsurface. It's peeping right out of there. So what I'd like to do that real quick, a little straight wax method.
See the corrosion lip in here? But that one came off pretty easy for how rusty it is and all the corrosion all over the vehicle. So if you're not changing your rotors, make sure you hammer right here, 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 here. Watch out for your studs and don't hit your friction surface of your rotor if you're reusing it. All right, now we're gonna clean off our hub surface, and it looks like somebody had replaced this wheel bearing so it's not too rusty. It has a moog on it, so it's been replaced. That's not factory, but we'll still give it a quick zip with the Hub Buddy tool right here. All this stuff can be found in my Amazon store, link in my bio. You know, hook me up with a little commission, guys. All right.
Rotor. Freshly cleaned. Make sure that you go ahead and clean them up. You're just gonna go ahead and do a second round.
Yeah, we put them on like this. Hit them with the brake cleaner. Wipe them with the rag. Jamie already did this. Then we flip them over. Do the same thing on this side. The guy provided these rotors from what, Detroit Axle?
Yeah.
And they had a lot of shipping oil on them compared to what you get in the parts store. One thing I do like to do is put one lug nut back on. See if I can get this one on. See how the rotor moves around on you? It's so much easier to get that caliper bracket on there if your rotor just stays still, straight and true. All right, now we're on to our bracket.
Oh yeah.
Where did you lube anything yet?
No, I have not done any lubing. I should go ahead and do that. Actually looking for the hardware for that one.
Here's the Sil Glide AGS. I have it in the tubes or the tubs in my store. And even though this is a pre-greased caliper, if you pull these slides out, there's just not enough grease in there for the rust belt. And I believe it's lower quality grease. From the factories, they cheap out as much as they can. The Sil Glide isn't real cheap. It's not too expensive though. I put a little bit inside the boot because that's where it likes to lock up, is right there. Lube up and down the shaft. And then a little bit right there where it likes to corrode, where that water will try to seep in through the bowl. And then put our sliders back in. Get the other side. Lube her up good. All right, and here's these spots I was talking about. Just a little light layer of the brake grease where our hardware is gonna go. Right there, and we got our...
These are individual spotted, so you gotta make sure you put them in the right spots.
So that straight part goes to the inside. Ooh. Come on, baby. They will click in. If you don't hear that click, it's not in all the way. It's nice and flush. Look, I'm picking the right spot both times.
Nice.
I'm just too good at this. Click. You'll kind of feel them or hear them lock in. Oh, I picked the wrong spot. So there's like the little spring side that's on the outside. You're gonna put that in first, and then you're gonna press against the little springy thing till you get the hook side on the inside. Then it clips in. You can see. Last one. Boom. Now we're gonna put that light layer of grease on this hardware. We're gonna need pads next. You got 2 pads for me?
I do have 2 pads, sir. There are 2 pads just fine.
All right. We've got our squealer tab right there. It's a wear indicator. When your brake pads get low, it'll start making noises. Now that tab is going to go to the top inside of the caliper. Ooh, it is nice and loosey-goosey in here.
I waited until I put everything
Yeah.
in to put them on.
With the rears, I put them in first. The fronts, we'll just go ahead and get our... these are big bolts. Make sure you torque them down real nice and tight. Give them all you got if you're going by hand with a 1/2-inch ratchet.
And cut.
Gonna put the squealer on the right side on the other side?
On purpose.
Alright.
Due to the fact that the lower
Every once in a while they...
slide pin was seized up. I just didn't want to have that issue again. It was going to have fucking sleeve side. That was my thought process. Just don't
It's
do that
fine.
again.
Yeah, put them on the top back. I'm not cutting anything out this video. No editing for me today, guys. So we're just gonna hit it with the Wyobi. Nice and tight. To the bottom. I usually go boom. I usually snug them both up, go boom, boom, boom with my torque. Alright, so we got all that done. Now we need our pads back. Our pads are just gonna slide right into there, guys. These ones are easy. Nothing tricky. Go. Now we got our caliper. And we put a little more of that brake grease. This helps a lot in the rust belt where they salt the roads heavily. Little grease on the ears and on the face of the piston. Just real thin. We'll go like this. Push your slider hardware in, slide it over, line it up. I like to go for the top one first, but you do you. The caliper kind of has to be straight for those threads to start in. So I had to kind of get it straight. Since this hardware is nice and lubed up and clean, that hardware will probably try to spin in on us. All right, now we're back to our 13mm and we'll show hose exchange from old to new. And this one should be getting a new hose, just to let you know. Those hoses can restrict over the years, and you think you got a bad caliper, but it's not a bad caliper. It's restriction in the hose, not allowing the brake pressure to relieve. So you're always slightly scraping your brakes, slight pressure on the rotor. You won't even feel it if it's light, and you wear out your brakes super fast. Especially on like the GM aluminum rear calipers. I've seen them wear out in like 5,000–6,000 miles because of brake hoses being restricted. And you're supposed to be getting like 50,000–60,000 miles out of brake pads. Yeah, 40 to 70 depending on how you brake, highway driving, city driving. I think the longest I've seen on brake pads was like 125,000 fronts for a truck that pulled a trailer a lot on the highway. All right, we're gonna take our little bleeder nipple cap off and open up our bleeder. That should be what, a 10, Jamie?
11 on the
11's on the front, 10's on the rear. Just gonna go ahead and open that up. We have a little plug on our new caliper. Jamie already took that off. And what do we got here?
It's a 15. I got it on the swivel. I want the swivel.
It's a lot easier to take off these banjo bolts to the calipers. We got the cleaning tool handy. The cleaning tool, the Dremel.
Yeah. No. Where did you put it?
Tire. Look at that tire right there.
Ah.
All right, so So our brake hose is gonna go kind of like down on the inside and curve in. We wire wheeled this banjo because it was so nasty beforehand. That's the easiest way to take them out. It's like, oh, if the bolt snaps, no big deal. We're changing calipers.
Here's your valve stem.
All right, this hose is crusted to it. You got a hammer?
Yeah.
You don't want to pull on the hose or anything, but you can give the block a little smack. You got the cap still for this.
Oh, yeah. Here you go.
Little valve stem trick. You can put it through there to stop your leakage. All right, so this hose goes like this with the L shape this way on the passenger side. We're gonna want to clean this guy up. And yeah, it has the rusted on copper washer. I'll need a little hand from you, Jamie.
We'll
have you all set up here. Great. All right, give me a whack, Jamie. There we go. Copper washer was stuck on there. It happens sometimes. Now we're gonna clean up this. It's good that our hose is dripping. It should be, but we don't want to lose too much fluid today. Fluid looks clean at least. Little Dremel wire wheel, soft brush. We want that mating surface to be nice and smooth and clean if you're reusing hoses.
Yeah.
One side. I'm gonna be ready for banjo bolt and copper washer here in a second.
To your left. On the arm right next to the camera.
This Dremel tool I'm liking more than the Dremel brand, the Phalanx automotive products, Amazon stores.
Take that. Your banjo bolt.
I'm liking it. It's a little bigger. I love the Dremel Mini for getting tight spaces for like cutting brake lines and stuff. But it just doesn't hold up in a shop environment, you know? It will break soon. I went to the bigger Dremel. I like it, but they don't hold up. They hold up longer than the Mini. That Phalanx is doing good so far. All right, so we have a copper washer on both sides of this banjo bolt. So you put one of the copper washers on first, go through the hose block, then put the other copper washer in, then start threading it in. We're gonna push our block right up against the caliper. And I have a 11 millimeter socket right there, Jamie, on the other arm. Now these are fine thread bolts. So you definitely don't want to strip them out. My hand is covered in brake fluid now. Get that out of there. You don't want to strip them out by over torquing them, fellas. I just go by feel because I've done thousands of these. You want to get them nice and tight to the point that that copper squishes and seals the copper washers. But if you over torque, I have seen people, DIYers, snap them off in there or strip the threads out. So you just want to be careful. And if you're like, oh, I'm not sure if it's tight enough or not, get your whole job done, start your brake bleeding, pump it a few times and look for drips out of there. Clean it off with a little brake cleaner, wipe it off, pump your pedal, get nice and pressurized, see if there's a little coming out. If there is, you need to tighten it more. All right, so there's that. That's all hooked up. We're gonna wait till we see a drip coming out of here. The bleeder is loose. Is it dripping on that rear caliper? Yeah, that rear caliper needs to be closed now. It takes a little while, but while we're working on the other wheels, we'll let the fluid just kind of flow down in there, get some of the air out with gravity, and then we'll do our bleeding afterwards. All right, so you can see the piston is not touching the brake pads. You've got to prime your pedal before you take off. So after your brake bleeding, you press your brake pedal in until your brakes get firm. If they never get firm, you got a problem somewhere. So we're gonna torque these lug nuts to spec with the wheel on after the bleeding. There's a lot of YouTube videos on bleeding brakes. I'll give you the gist of it. If you have no special tools, open up your bleeder valve, have a buddy press the brakes in. You're all by yourself, use a piece of 2x4, a bar, anything. Press the brake in, leave it all the way in, close the valve. Release the pedal, open the bleeder valve. Press the pedal in, leave it pressed in, close the bleeder valve, release the brake pedal. Do that until you see no more air and your pedal's firm. Now, sometimes they won't start bleeding fluid out till you give the pedal a couple pumps. And yeah, that about does it, Jamie?
Yeah.
We covered everything?
Exactly.
All right. It's front brakes, guys. Catch you on the next episode. Drop a like if you thought this was helpful.
And don't forget to take off your hanger.
Yeah. Don't leave any tools up in there. Check your brake fluid reservoir. After doing all 4 wheels, it should be at max.